I had a student the other day ask me, Mr. Norcross, how do you keep from getting burned out when you're at the dojo so much, 5 days a week, 6 days sometimes up to 12 hours a day? How do you just keep from going insane and just locking the door and taking a week vacation? And it was a good question. I always think back to my childhood, what initially started me in the martial arts. And anytime I tell students when they're having a struggle with maintaining the rigid curriculum or getting the bravery to come in and train, or overcoming the fear of pushing yourself through obstacles, when you feel burned out or bored with your training, you have to always ask yourself, what initially started me in my martial art training? And this transcends style or school, any type of label. So it doesn't matter what style you study or who you study with, what organization you're part of or not part of. You have to remember, I told the student, why you started to train. And I was just training this morning. It's 8:30 in the morning here. And when I get in the morning, I oftentimes do sword work. It's just something I do by myself. It's a meditative process. Today I decided to get out this old ninja toe. Those of you old enough to recognize this is a sword from the Shokosugi movies. So if you've ever seen Enter the Ninja in the 1980s, or Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja 3, The Domination, American Ninja, you name it, this was a sword. I don't know if it was designed by Shokosugi, but it's this type of ninja toe, they call it. It's the big square guard, the straight blade, really short blade, long saya. And working with this morning, this was a childhood fantasy of mine. I started training officially when I was 12 years old in karate, in Uechi-ryu karate. And then I found ninjutsu around the age of 12 as well. That would be 1982. And I started to watch Kung Fu theater when I was about 9 years old. And Bruce Lee was big back then. And David Carradine, and those were the shows that I grew up with. Every Saturday morning we were glued to the television watching Kung Fu theater. And then my brother and I would go out back right after the show finished and beat the heck out of each other, not knowing a thing about martial arts, but it was so exciting, not just to spend time with my bigger brother, but to try to reenact these movies where these guys were flying around in silk and making these strange flag sound effects and things. And that is something that sticks with you. And often when I'm talking to people who still do for a living what their childhood fantasy was, they're rare, but I do come across them. There's something about that magic of childhood that keeps it fresh and keeps me from getting bored in my training. I never ever get bored in training martial arts, and I've done so many over the years. So I never forget. If I'm having a bad day or a bad hour, I always remember the passion that I had since I was a child to study and to learn and to make mistakes in and to fall down in martial arts, because it carried me through my life, through the hardships in my life. And being a little fat kid in the 1980s, who was naturally a very introverted person, still am, the martial arts carried me through all of that. The martial arts brought me confidence when I didn't have it, because I could pretend to be Shokosugi. I could pretend to be Bruce Lee or Steven Seagal or Jet Li or whoever your hero is. I could pretend to be that hero. And all of a sudden, the fantasy world started to slip into reality, and I started to get good at martial arts and winning things and getting higher rank and earning my first black belt at the age of 17. And then traveling to different parts of the country to learn different martial arts at the age of 17, and getting a second job to save up the money to get on a plane and travel, or to drive 1,000 miles for a 2-day seminar out in Ohio. All these strange things that I did, but the martial arts gave me the tools I needed to succeed in life and not just be some little typical small-town loser that I would have probably been if it hadn't been for martial arts. It gave me so much confidence. You know, to be able to ask the girl that you like to prom when you didn't have the confidence 2-3 years earlier, that came from my martial art training. The ability to excel at whatever part-time job I took, whether it was at an ice cream store or raking leaves or shoveling snow, and to go out and be a business person and to ask questions and to impress the leader of the job and my bosses, and to say, how do I get more hours, sir? What can I do to make more money, sir? How can I do this? That all came from the confidence of carrying the sword at such a young age. And that's what I love now. One of the reasons that keeps me from getting burned out is seeing the power of practicing martial arts with the younger kids of the new generations. And I see them at age 7, 8 start to train, and they can't even look at you in the eye. They can't shake your hand. They have no self-defense skills, no awareness skills, don't know what their identity is yet, and now they're starting to develop an identity through martial arts. And I see these young people, male and female alike, become very powerful role models by the time they're in their early teens. They're getting straight A's at school. They're much more kind and compassionate. They're much more disciplined and respectful at home, and they respect themselves, and they make the right decisions, and they surround themselves with like-minded, powerful individuals, and they get a job at age 14, and they're not lazy, sitting around all day playing games, and they go out and excel, and then they get into college, and then they get their black belt after 5 years, and they can they want their second degree now and their third degree. They never ossify. The ossification process doesn't come into play. So therefore, they're open to new ideas, and they're critical thinkers. They know, I don't teach them what to think, I teach them how to think, as my teachers did for me. And as far as now, as an older person, when I went through my 20s and 30s and I wasn't sure who I was or what I wanted to do, the martial arts was always that North Star. It was always that beacon that I could trust, that wouldn't backstab me, that wouldn't betray me, that wouldn't let me down. The sword was always there. And I don't mean sword as in violence. Don't think of this as a symbol of war. It's not. It's a symbol of peace. And now, if I take just 2 days off from training in martial arts, even at my middle age now, I get so ossified is the word, that the ossification comes back. It's plugging in. When I train in martial arts now, I am plugging in and recharging my batteries. And I don't know about you, wherever you are, but I find if I don't train and I don't engage my body physically and mentally and spiritually in the martial arts, that my phone shuts off. It goes down to 1 battery. But when I enter the dojo, I plug in, and the power surges through me, the power of tradition and lineage, and the power of the camaraderie of the people that I love and like to see every day at the dojo. That community, that church, but without the religion. That spiritual connection to endless generations of warriors that have died on the battlefield to bring me this knowledge. And they're whispering, keep going, don't quit, don't ossify, don't stop. And so when you train, you plug in. And then when you're done training, you're sweating. You're smiling at this community of like-minded people, and you all leave the dojo laughing and happy, and you go home and you're still laughing and happy. And no matter what issues come to you via email or the phone, the computer, or relationships around you, I can easily handle those situations without regret, without fear, without trepidation. And believe me, the problems are no less for those that train actively, but the problems don't have the power over you. When I don't train, I feel much more purposeless. I feel without purpose. I feel like I'm itchy. I don't know what to do with myself. Now, this doesn't have to just be about martial arts. This can be about any endeavor that you're thinking about or that you do in your life. This same feeling, this same learning process can come from your family, and you can be just as passionate about taking care of your family or spending time with your loved ones or the job that you have sought out, your profession, your career, any type of thing that you do. You could get it through your church. You could get it through the activities that you do, the running that you do. You might be a jogger. You might be an artist or a musician, which I love as well. Don't let it take over and obsess you that it takes you away from other things. However, because I'm still doing martial arts 40 years later, is because I kept it in a prioritized place in my life. I did not allow other parts of my life to kill the dream of martial arts inside me. And that's what happens. That's why most people quit, is because martial arts at some point is very high in their priority. And they spend time pushing the rest of their life back a little bit so that they can train at the dojo to get those feelings that they had from when they were a child. But then life gets in the way, is the old adage. It's an excuse, there's no doubt about it. Life doesn't get in the way of my training, ever. Life is a partner to my training, and life gives me the challenges that my training can overcome. And the mirror, the symbol of the mirror, this is a Kagami mirror that we keep on the mantle at our dojo, and this symbolizes stainless purity. When I look in the mirror, whether it's that 10-year-old kid or this older adult here, I can see the faults, I can see the things that I need to work on. And when you stare in a mirror, you cannot hide, you cannot lie to yourself. The truth is right there, staring back at you. And the mirror on the mantle over there, what's called the Kamidana, the mirror symbolizes get rid of the BS. You can't fake this stuff. You can't fake battle. You can't fake a threat coming towards you to try to kill you. You either know the techniques or you don't. You can either stop a threat or you can't. You either become the victim or the victor. That mirror stares at you in the face and says, come, try to attain that perfection. Look in the mirror. Look at that faulted person right there. But can you strive for perfection? And then the mirror tells us to keep it flat and fair and very real. The mirror says you'll never attain perfection. You'll never attain pure stainlessness. You'll never attain the perfection of God. But you should try as a human being, and your ancestors demand that you try, and the Buddha in you demands that you try to become a better man or woman than you were yesterday. That's why I train, and that's why since I was 10 years old, I keep training. Because I want to look in that mirror and say, hey, you're not a bad person. Hey, you actually have a lot of self-value in you. You're not going to think about suicide. You're not going to think about the evil and the darkness in life, because you have the purity of that mirror. You have the light of the reflected sky and the heavens in that mirror, and they're reflecting back at you. And when I look in that mirror, I see someone who I can be proud of. And I'm proud of the last name that I hold, and I'm proud of the martial art that I study, and I'm proud of my family and my heritage and my friends and my country and my neighbors and the diversity in the world. And I'm going to plug myself into the dojo today, and I'm going to go train. Because when you train, you change the chemical balance of your body. And there just isn't room for sadness. There isn't room for the victim mentality, because my body is chemically moving. I try not to ossify, because if I ossify, I die. And yes, we're headed toward death. There's that inevitability of life, which keeps me focused, because I know that life can end any day. And that's why the samurai and the ninja and all the old masters from the East would write poetry about death all the time, because they realize my life is finite. It will end. There's no doubt. I cannot win over the opponent of death and time. So I need to adapt to change rather than fight it. I need to keep an open mind rather than shutting it down with my old belief systems that don't hold true anymore. There's a personal reality in life, and then there's an objective reality. The objective reality says, look, this is the way things are whether you believe it or not. Yet the personal realities that we hold, the personal truths, can often be blown away with one stroke of the sword, or one view into the Kagami mirror will blow away any preconceived notions. So that's why I continue to train, because I'm a better man than I was last week, slightly. And yet I still see every single fault in my own personality, and I try just a little bit each day to inspire the younger people who were once that age. And I see these kids that look just like me at age 10. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me from getting burned out. There's no such thing in martial arts. It's too much to learn. And rather than me just talking about it, I'm going to go back and actively work at it. Try not to ossify or I'll die. What are you going to do? Are you going to get back in the dojo? Are you going to continue, if you're actively training, to keep going to that next rank or that next obstacle that you're going to overcome? Are you going to stare in the mirror? Are you going to plug in today with whatever activity you want to do and charge your phone up to 4 bars of power so that we can become a loving and compassionate person for those around us, and we can become a better vehicle in this world that sometimes looks really dark, when actually there's so much more brightness and light and love out there if we're just aware enough to see it. Until next time, my friends, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.